Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. My brothers and sisters, we are about to walk through the newest gold medal for mental gymnastics from a judge ruling against an injunction in Colorado around mandatory waiting periods. You guys need to see every bit of this because this is absolutely insane. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and this is breaking as of a couple hours ago, so let me know what you guys think down there and send this one out as well. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. We are distributing freedom twice daily, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. All right, my brothers and sisters, this is a case out of Colorado. Do you remember last year when Colorado passed the big 4 new gun control measures where they were doing a 18 to 20-year-old ban, they were doing mandatory waiting periods, they were doing a lot of other things, all sorts of good little gun control nuggets? Well, a lot of that agenda has been halted in the courts, and this is one of those pieces. This is around a mandatory 3-day minimum waiting period. Okay? Keep that in mind as we go forward, because this judge is about to compare you having your firearms rights delayed by the state to drunk people and a slow ecosystem of firearm production. You can't make this up. Let's get into it because this is something you guys need to see. This is in the United States District Court for the District of Colorado. This is the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners versus Jared Polis, who is the governor. Again, this is around the 3-day mandatory waiting period. And if you want to see even more of this when we dive deeper, me and Tim on Second Legacy, I'll link it right down there. We have a longer show format, and we're going to dive even deeper because there's tons of insanity. This is just the high points. All right, check this out. So the first thing that the judge says in his denial of the injunction is the court clarified that when bear is used with arms, however, the term has a meaning that refers to carrying a particular purpose, confrontation. So now it's the right to keep and bear arms for confrontation. He just applied intent, okay? He's not exactly right, but let's continue. So, putting all the pieces together, the court found that the text of the Second Amendment guarantees the individual right to possess and carry weapons in case of confrontation. See what he did there? From the reading of the plain text, it is clear and relevant conduct impacted by the waiting period. The receipt of a paid-for firearm without delay is not covered. So, because he's assigning intent, therefore he's using that assumption of intent to say that waiting periods are not an encumbrance upon your Second Amendment rights. This is just the tip of the iceberg, people. We haven't even gotten to the drunk people or the economic systems back in the day. All right, check this out, because mental gymnastics gold. That's all I can say. So, seemingly recognizing this fact, and this is linked, by the way, you can read this. Plaintiffs contend that the right to keep arms necessarily implies the right to possess arms one has acquired. But the purchase and delivery of an object, here a firearm, is not an integral element of keeping or bearing that object. So he's literally saying that buying the firearm, that's not part of keeping and bearing. You can only keep and bear something you already have, so therefore it's not protected. So the buying and mandatory waiting periods, those are perfectly fine because you're not keeping or bearing because you haven't acquired it yet. Yeah, let's keep going. Rather, purchase and delivery are one means of creating the opportunity to have weapons. The relevant question is whether the plain text covers that specific means. It does not. He is actively trying in a district court in Colorado to say that the idea of acquiring a firearm is different than keeping or bearing the firearm because you never had it to begin with. So because you never had it to begin with, it's not protected by the Second Amendment. That would be under acquiring, so mandatory waiting periods are okay. Again, I haven't even gotten to the insane part yet. Let's continue, because I know you guys got things to do. It's a busy night. Let's just continue with this greatness, because this is this situation right here. Even if purchasing a firearm could be read into the terms keep or bear, receipt of a firearm without any delay could not be, as the founders would not have expected instant, widespread availability of the firearm of their choice. He's literally writing down in a decision, in a district court level, that, well, the founders had no idea that economies of scale and manufacturing would improve and logistics would improve to where you had a lot more inventory because they had to send off and wait for firearms to be made because it was the 1700s. So therefore, mandatory waiting periods are the same as production waiting periods. You see? Seriously. You can't... let's just keep going because, like I said, it's insane. So that's one of the arguments, all right? The government of Colorado actually put that forward. But consistent with Professor Spitzer's observation, production rates of firearms were far lower than they are today. So individuals might have had to wait a few weeks to get a firearm. Again, reiterating the point, their stance is the difference between a production time of a firearm back in the 1700s and mandatory waiting periods imposed by the state, that's perfectly the same. Guys, to boil this down even more simply, the idea that you have inventory levels here and logistics ironed out, and you're putting a state-mandated imposition on the acquiring, because apparently acquiring is not part of the Second Amendment to this guy. So you're putting a mandated acquiring requirement right there, but that's exactly the same as when materials and shipping and all that was done by horse, right? Totally. See, guys? Okay. Well, that's just one. I can't wait for this one to be tossed up to the next level because this is absolutely crazy, and we haven't even gotten to the drunk part yet. So, you having fun yet? Because, as the parties agree, no law requiring a waiting period was enacted in the United States until 1923. Shouldn't that kind of be the end of the statement? History, text, and tradition to satisfy the Bruin decision from 1791. There's not a current law that has mandated waiting periods until 1923. So this guy's going with production availabilities and drunk people. That's the same as every single person in the United States. Yeah. Anyway, I must consider whether historical precedent from before, during, and even after the founding evinces a comparable tradition of regulation. Yeah. Well, here we go. Let's bring on the drunk people. The governor emphasizes that waiting period laws were unnecessary before the early 20th century because a waiting period inherent in the acquisition of firearms already existed for many Americans. As we discussed above, I find the opinions of Professors Roth and Spitzer on the availability of firearms for purchase throughout the nation's history to be compelling. Oh, it's compelling. It's 9 pounds of compelling in an 8-pound bag. Yeah, 9 pounds in an 8-pound. Yeah, because it's overflowing. Anyway, purchasers still had to wait several days before receiving them. Sorry, now's where the drunk part comes in. That was more of the same. My people. Laws related to intoxication as analogs. Intoxication. That's the exact same, apparently, as every single American's gun rights. Okay. The aim of the Waiting Periods Act is to help prevent impulsive acts of firearm violence, including homicides and suicides. The governor alleges that states have long regulated the possession, use, and sales of arms to intoxicated persons, laws which are designed to avoid such impulsive violence. Professor Spitzer, who seems like a peach, opined that old intoxication laws avoided or thwarted heat-of-the-moment gun acquisition or use by the intoxicated, when they would be much more likely to act rashly, impulsively, and with diminished judgment. Hey, I have a question. How can you say that everyone's going to do that with your intent if you're buying a firearm, which is your constitutional right? Because right there you're saying that the alcohol made them inhibited from making a rational decision because they were stupid and they were drunk or they were whatever. Well, if that's the case, how are you going to say that every single everyday person is like that, but you're imposing a penalty just like them on that? The mental gymnastics on this one gives me a run for my money. This is getting close to the Oregon Measure 114 mental gymnastics with the whole licensing agreement thing. So this actually happened in court law. So at a high level, just to recap, you're talking about drunk people, and then you're talking about means of production and inventory availabilities. Both are exactly the same as mandatory waiting periods on existing inventory, which is sitting right there. You just can't get it for 3 days because the state imposed an inhibition on your rights. It's the exact same, right? Yeah. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.